The gouges in my chair's armrest are 3 days old, and I still don't remember making them. 4 parallel lines, deep enough to show the frame underneath. I only know they appeared sometime after a boy who barely reached my sternum sat in my war chamber and told me, without raising his voice once, exactly how badly I had misjudged an entire species. Korath brought him in himself. My second in command, a warrior who had once dismantled a rebel cruiser with his bare hands, could not keep his claws from shaking as he delivered the count. 12 of our best, down in under 3 minutes. The boy, perched on a chair dragged in from the mess hall because nothing in my chamber fit someone his size, corrected him without looking up. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. He said it the way you'd correct someone's math homework. I asked what he'd done to earn the scrap of metal pinned to his shirt. He glanced at it like it was lint. This old thing wasn't really for your soldiers, he said. That part was more like a bonus round. Korath's growl shook the room. Bonus round. Those were veterans of 1,000 campaigns. Veterans who fight like they learned combat from watching a dance recital, the boy said. Lots of spinning, not much substance. He tilted his head. No offense. I told him to explain himself completely, and something shifted in his face. The boredom dropped away, and for the first time he looked like he was choosing his words on purpose. It started on Kepler 442b, he said. Your fleet went there to make an example of us. 37 colonists on the ground. Farmers, a mechanic, a woman who ran a bakery. Your files had all of that, occupations, routines, family names. What the files missed was that every one of those 37 had once carried a rifle for a living. The tomato farmer had spent 15 years as a marksman. The baker had cleared minefields. When your battalions came down expecting frightened civilians, they got a town meeting instead. Coffee, someone's pie, an actual vote on what to do next. It was unanimous, he said, and let the silence sit before he continued. Your soldiers came armed for a massacre and walked into 37 of the most dangerous people who ever drew breath, carrying tools your intelligence had logged as agricultural. 18 minutes. Of nearly 2,000 troops, fewer than 300 made it back to their ships, and those carried a message scratched into their own armor in a dozen alphabets, all saying the same 4 words. Humans are not prey. Nobody in that chamber breathed. Korath had gone the color of dead coral. The boy slid off his chair, and though his head barely cleared my chest plate, he seemed for a moment to own every inch of the room. After Kepler, my people built something new, he said. A unit made of kids, because kids learn fast and nobody's told them yet what's supposed to be impossible. They call it the Juvenile Response Division. I came here to hand you a warning, not a treaty. Push us again, and next time you won't get someone who's more worried about missing a homework deadline than about diplomacy. Next time you get someone who wasn't sent to talk. He tapped the medal once, like punctuation, and walked out through the doors nobody dared to close behind him. That was 3 days ago. I have not slept since. This morning my console lit with a priority code I didn't recognize. High Admiral Kane, Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces, and the ground I thought I was standing on gave out a second time. He asked, almost warmly, whether Tommy had behaved himself. Tommy. The reckoning had a nickname, and it belonged to a boy who ate lunch out of a box packed by his mother. I told him the message had landed with perfect clarity. Good, Kane said, because Tommy worried he'd been too gentle with it. Some of my own council's hardliners had apparently decided one child couldn't represent a real threat and dispatched 3 battle fleets to prove it without so much as informing me. I told him I would deal with it myself. He told me, with something close to sympathy, that it was already handled. Tommy's visit, he explained, had never been the whole assignment, just the first field trip in a longer-term project. 7 students in total, each working independently. A 13-year-old had written a paper mapping the psychological pressure points of predator species under stress. A 15-year-old fluent in 47 languages had spent his evenings finding the seams in our fleet formations the way other kids solved puzzles, and had never once lost the exercise. An 11-year-old had broken into our secured networks 17 times, purely to see if the encryption held. Twin brothers who thought 3 moves ahead of anyone facing them as a hobby, nothing more. And one more girl, still finishing her paper on the exact rhythm of our patrol routes, very predictable habits. Kane mentioned, almost as an aside, you might want to look into that sometime. While he spoke, my own screens were already filling with the impossible. Entire warships gone dark and drifting. Tactical displays replaced with drawings, actual crayon drawings of suns and stars. Commander after commander transmitting the identical line, "We surrender, please make it stop." The twins, it turned out, had orchestrated a complete capitulation of 3 fleets without firing a single shot between them. Kane called the coordination elegant. He said their teachers would be proud. I asked him, and I will admit my voice cracked on the question, what humanity actually wanted from us. He seemed genuinely puzzled by it. Nothing, he said. This was never about wanting. It was about giving children work suited to what they'd already outgrown. High schoolers, he added, need more demanding projects than the middle schoolers do. He hoped, sincerely, that the council would take the lesson to heart before anyone had to design the next one. The full council convened within the hour and ratified a permanent peace treaty faster than any vote in 3 centuries of recorded history. I signed it myself, my claws leaving small crescent marks in the tablet's edge. Was this morning. It is night now, and I am alone with the wreckage of everything I understood about power. On the largest screen in my chamber, looping without my having asked it to, is a single transmission one of those children sent through afterward, tagged simply as a gift. A child's drawing crooked suns, a lopsided rendering of my own flagship in careful crayon strokes, and beneath it, in a careful looping hand, "Your ships are really cool. Sorry about the fleet thing. Hope we can be friends." I have stared at that drawing longer than I have ever studied a single piece of intelligence in my career, turning it over in my mind the way I once turned over battle plans, searching for the trap in it and finding none. Somewhere out past the edge of council space, a transport carries 7 children home to dinner tables and unfinished homework, already forgetting, probably, that they ever did anything remarkable at all. And here in the quiet of my chamber, I find I cannot decide whether the drawing pinned now beside my own throne is the gentlest thing anyone has ever handed me, or the clearest warning I have ever received. I leave it exactly where it is. I have not yet found the courage to take it down.